Hey guys, welcome back to the Cardsmiths. And the cadence of videos coming out, it's definitely slowed down, but nonetheless, back. And I'm excited. I'm quite excited to do this video because I think it was, you might have noticed, this channel's had a big focus on Vampire lately. I think the last two videos I did the report following the Clan Clash Brussels. That was a lot of fun at that event, had a great time, and it was fun making that video in Paris, just chatting about my experiences there. And then the last video, special guest on the channel, Brian, coming in to do our first ever channel spoiler, so that was a lot of fun as well. Vampire is a game that has really grown on me. It's sunk its teeth into me, and it's really taken hold. So this is a game I've been having a lot of fun with, and I've been getting more and more into. It's definitely my favorite game right now. And yeah, tournament season coming up. I mean, we've already been having clan clashes, store championship type events, but there's just been some announcements for some Prince of the City events, and hopefully it sounds like there's going to be some more coming. Hopefully maybe one in France, but we'll see. I hope so. Fingers crossed. So if not, there's UK Nationals coming up in the fall, and Gen Con before that. I won't be there for that, unfortunately. But it's really, I think it's a good time for me to check in and do a little deck report of a deck that I have been quite enjoying, and I think is quite good. I've been working on this, working at it for a long time. It's been evolving, changing, and this is sort of what I have came to. So I'm excited to chat about it today. As you see on the screen here, big man on campus, and that's because we've got my boy Emil Haruza here. And the thing is, Emil was actually one of the big reasons I got into Vampire. I got the game. Shout out to Coyote who recommended the game to the channel, and that was how I came across the game. Got it, played a little bit. Really only had the chance to play a couple 1v1 games. Enjoyed it, but didn't think too much of anything. It wasn't until I went to the Prince of the City for Barcelona last summer that I really started getting into the game, went to the event at Gen Con, and have since been very immersed in it. So Emil was a big reason, actually, that I got quite back into this game, is because I think it was last spring when Heart of Europe was spoiled. I saw the spoiler for him with the alt art, and I was immediately... There's a lot of things I loved about him. The first is honestly just the art of that alt art. It isn't the one here. I think it's really intense, really cool. And then I was like, wow, seven blood potency vampire. This is unprecedented as well. And then his ability of engaging with the city deck is the kind of gameplay that I really attracts me. So Emil I was like, okay, this is super cool. I want to play this guy. I'm more interested in the game immediately after seeing the spoiler. I want to play Emil, and that's just what I want this game to be for me. So since I've almost every single game of Vampire I've played since I've got my hands on Heart of Europe has been with Emil as my leader. I think I played there's like 2 or 3 times where it wasn't, and that's it. And that was just one of them. I was playing demo decks with my friend Connell, and it was just core set demo deck, so obviously he wasn't part of that. And the other one, I think I tested like I can't remember. I think it was just, it's escaping me, but there was some other game or something, I think. But nonetheless, so yeah, I've been working away. I've been trying to really perfect a deck with him for a long time, and I've gone through a lot of different iterations. Actually, I can show you in my decks here. Let's, as you can see, almost every single one featuring the big man himself. So yeah, a lot of different iterations, different clans being used, different. That Animal Kingdom one, don't worry, I haven't. I'm not completely incompetent. That was a placeholder for Kiss the Ring. I remember I wanted to pick something ridiculous, so that it'd be obvious that it wasn't that, because Kiss the Ring, I think, is still not on the... Well, yeah, Kiss the Prince. It was definitely the stick. Anyways, as you can see, a lot of Emil. So, gone through a lot of iterations, trying to just... Wait, no, this is a single player deck I've been working on. Here we go, number V3. So I've been going through a lot of different approaches with him, and I've came to... I want to talk about some of the conclusions I've came to. Is that, first off, Emil, the 7 is a hefty amount of prestige to be spending at the beginning. So I do think you need to have lower BP vampires as your other vampires. I'm fine with fours, as you're going to see in this deck here, but I've tried them with fives, and yeah, it can get dicey. Uh, but I mean that's more so on the obvious side. The bigger conclusion I've came to is that if you're running a meal, you need to be ensuring that you're getting the appropriate mileage from the investment. So I personally think a big part of that mileage comes from his ability of mixing a city deck event back in. So especially in the prog deck, there's some really powerful events that you can leverage a huge advantage if you're a mill and the other players are being hit by these and you're ignoring them. The actually I'm on the site here. Let's pull it up. Let's go to the prog deck. And austerity measures can be a big one, but the two biggest ones for me are racing the clock, and even better than that, actually, I think, is this is bizarre because I'm not seeing it now. I'm not seeing where the temporary truce is actually, which is quite odd. This is. Hang on, we're gonna figure this out. Is that? Wow, this is actually really strange. Not. We go city. We go Prague. Here, let's try a different approach. Let's go city and then let's put it by heart of Europe. Okay, that has somehow changed things. Anyway, so temporary truce right here. Let's zoom in on that. Leaders may not perform attack actions. This really can slow a lot of other decks down, and that it's huge. You're a mill, you ignore it, you do your own thing, and it can really hurt the other decks. Walpurgis Night is the event that can really hurt you as a meal, but I'll talk about a way that I've developed to get around that. And then racing the clock can be significant as well. It's something people hate to see come up, and as a meal, you love to see it come up. Austerity measures can be quite good as well, and House Divided can be pretty handy also. So essentially, the reason I'm talking about this is that you need to be getting mileage of this cycling of events back into the city deck. Because another thing it does is not only does it get those events back in and you get to see the more powerful events that hurt them, not you, but on top of that, it just thins the city deck down to there being less mortals for other people to get. So for people playing Hunt the Hunters, it waters that down a bit. For people playing Playthings, it can water that down. Invisible Army, and even just people who want to go out and kill mortals. It's clogging the city deck up with more events, which is really beneficial to you as the mill player. So another big thing a mill offers is 2 in each of the 2 stats there. So yeah, not only does that really mean you can only kind of hurt him through a physical attack, I mean, with the exception of some massive strike, obviously, but the other thing that I really enjoy is that it makes him a really versatile attacker when you're targeting another person, because if you play a 2 social attack card or a 2 mental attack card, you can hit for 4 in 2 different categories, and it's pretty easy to do that. Another thing is that he's very well adapted to drain tactics on other players, which I love. A drain, it can be sneaky, it can get people when it's not expecting. I think it's something that really rewards skilled play. So there's a few things that do that here. The Toreador tag opens up some of those drain cards like Backhand and Complement, and Balance of Power can be a big one as well. So the other element is that he has the Dominate here. And the Dominate opens up the window for Demand Obedience plays. So he's quite adept at doing these kind of drain plays. But to go back to the bigger thing, you need to be getting that mileage out of him. So for me, I think a mill needs to be killing a mortal each of your turns to be getting that full potential from him, or he's killing an enemy character, or you're getting a significant drain effect off on them. So if you're hitting them with a good backhanded Complement or a good Demand Obedience, that can be very strong and well worth your turn with him. So another element is that then I've gone into Switcheroo, and I think Switcheroo is extremely good with Emil because he's already hitting on 2 on each of those stats, right? So if you attack with Emil, you attack physical, and you drop the Switcheroo, or I mean, it doesn't even have to be. It can be physical if you really want to open up the possibility of going to social with a good card or going to mental with a good card. But you can even just switcheroo a social attack. You're hitting for 3, and then depending on how they block or what defense card they play, you can move to a mental. So the switcheroo is super versatile, particularly with Emil. I think it's incredibly strong. And the other great element of switcheroo is that it is just a 1 damage card still. So you can always use it to just play down and kill a mortal with Emil. And I'll talk about why that's quite important for this deck in a minute. So to talk about some of the iterations I've gone through, first I figure, okay, Emil, to be getting this utility out of him, you need to be killing something. You need to be killing a mortal or another vampire. So he needs to be out on the streets to do that, generally speaking. If you could go a version where you're running the sewers or something like that, but generally speaking, he's going to be on the streets to do these kills. So, okay, first off, how can we leverage an advantage out of that? First, I figure, okay, converted bus. Let's have him have secrecy while he's out in the streets to be leveraging the full utility of him. And I tried that version. I'm like, okay, I'll make use of the converted bus. He has 7 blood. I don't mind spending blood off him to further my face downs. But the reality I found with that, it was just a bit too slow because you're not running Thor as your leader then. You're kind of hoping, you're relying on trying to draw her. And yeah, it was just a little slow. It wasn't a bad deck, but it was a bit too slow. It's not something that I think is top tier, for that's for sure. So and I came to realize that, and I moved on to some other approaches. Next, I figure, okay, Emil Invisible Army. That's the great thing about Emil Invisible Army is when you attack and kill a Vagrant, you get to fire off his ability. You also get to kill the Vagrant without playing a card, which is really big. You save cards, and you still get to fire his ability and get those 2 agenda. And then Vagrants on Emil are also good because just for keeping him alive, right? For Vagrants, for eating T-Max damage, for attacks on Emil. They can open up safer Prince plays with Emil, which as a 7 BP, he's always going to be in contention for a Prince title. And yeah, I went that route. I think it's a good deck. And the other good thing with that approach is you get Irresistible Voice, whereas Emil has both the tags on Irresistible Voice, so you can steal in the opponent's retainer during your attack with and spend 1 less blood doing so because he has each of the 2 disciplines you need for that card. But the thing that I found with that is, okay, well, if they take a Vagrant and you try to take it back with Emil, you attack that character with the Vagrant, they block with someone else, and your Irresistible Voice isn't firing, and it wasn't quite as consistent as I would have liked. I think it's a good deck as well. I think it's better than the bus one, but I wanted something a little better and a little more reliable. So and actually, this was even before this experimenting started. I played Emil at Gen Con, and I played Royal Retreat because I figure, okay, it's helping me cycle the city to get back to the more powerful events, which, as we talked about, is amazing with Emil. And then there I also ran Base of Power because I figured, okay, for my agenda, might as well show this stuff. Right here, when a character in your coterie attaches a title, gain 2, and I played that because the Royal Retreat characters with a title of +1 influence. So I leaned into that influence approach. Then I had Maya for the event stuff going on, and I did well. It was a fine deck. But the thing is, I think I actually finished 6th after Swiss at the Continental Conclave at Gen Con. So I actually did really well. But the caveat there was I got really lucky because I was running Sebastian here. And I had La Sombre cards in my deck, and Sebastian was my only La Sombre vampire, and I think I drew him in one of my first 2 vampires, like every game I played. So I could have easily not drawn him. My La Sombre cards would have been turned off, and this was a hefty investment. I would have Sebastian, Emil, and then sometimes maybe just the two of them. Maybe I had a third one out or something. I don't know. I just felt I was getting really lucky at Gen Con to come into that sixth place after day one position. So, yeah, I'm I digress. But the maybe I'll stay on the cards here. But yeah, so then I'm going through these iterations, and I'm preparing for Clan Clash Brussels, and I like that Emil Royal Retreat kind of thing that I was going for. So then I decide, okay, I'm gonna play Horde the Herd, because Horde the Herd has really high agenda gain potential. Because if you're a Emil, you want to be killing something every turn. And Horde the Herd feeds off of that because it's a passive 2 gain if there's no mortals out on the streets. You're already wanting to kill mortals out on the streets with a mill. Then you also have Royal Retreat, which can cycle a city card out if it is a mortal you're trying to get rid of. And that can really lead to a lot of agenda gain. But what I found at Clan Clash Brussels was it's inconsistent. Because the problem is, if nobody else is playing a deck at the table that's killing things in the city can flood with characters, and your Horde the Herd can get completely turned off. I had a game where I think I got 1 agenda from Horde the Herd the whole game. So ultimately, this was one of the things that ended up costing me at Clan Clash Brussels. I still got 5th place. I was 1 spot out of the finals, but you know, I saw the problem here. And the thing is, it's Horde the Herd. It's just meta dependent, right? Because a lot of people at Clan Clash Brussels were playing more passive decks, a lot of title decks. They loved their title decks. There was one game where I was playing Royal Retreat, and there were 2 other Royal Retreats at the table, or maybe all of us. I think we might have had 4 for 4 Royal Retreats, or 3 out of 4. Regardless, it was crazy. And yeah, and Horde the Herd just flopped at that event. So I'm like, okay, I need to adapt. I need to evolve this deck. I want something better, and I want something more consistent. And someone at the event made a good point. They're like, I played a lot of Horde the Herd, and it can be too inconsistent. I think when it goes off, it's amazing. And there's games where it'll go off, and you will get a flood of points from this thing. A passive 2 a turn is extremely powerful, like too powerful, arguably. But the problem is there's those games where it doesn't go off, and I wanted something more consistent. So, wait, not new deck. Oops. Oh no, we're frozen. There we go. Okay. So then I kept experimenting with things, and I'd been playing against people playing University Library, and the thing is, I hadn't really experimented with University Library much. I knew it was good, but then I started to realize that the amount of cards you draw from this is so strong. And originally I'm like, okay, well, you're weakening your leader a lot if you do that. Yeah, I know Alejandro and University Library is a big, it's been a big meta thing for a long time, but I wasn't interested in playing that. I wanted to play with Emil. The Alejandro deck just wasn't something I didn't feel like playing necessarily. A big meta deck. I wanted to do something with Emil. That's why I'm here. So, yeah, I came around to being like, okay, you know what? I'm going to try University Library with Emil. I'm going to try to make something work with this. I think it's good, but the deck just wasn't coalescing quite how I wanted it to. And then suddenly it's like, okay, well, wait, knowledge is power. Because the thing is, knowledge is power. It's just the first time your leader exhausts in the streets during each of your turns. So that can be killing a mortal. That can be killing an enemy vampire. That can be attacking them to do one of your drain effects. It's just turned on if you have 6+ library cards in hand. If you have exactly 10, you gain 2. So if you're killing a mortal with that one action, it's a 3 gold action. Let's say you have 10 library cards. You tap a mill. You gain 2 gold immediately. Then you play down one of your 10 cards for the attack card. You kill the mortal, gain another one. One action for 3 gold is really extremely powerful. So, knowledge is power has a problem, and it's that your leader can get feared, and the deck can kind of crumble. But in the new set, it's not on the deck builder here, but I'll just explain it. There's a card. There's a card with the celerity tag, and it's called the Cat's Grace. and it's an unhosted action. You can attach it. And if the character has celerity, you get to ready them at the end of each of your turns. You also get to draw a card off of just putting the attachment on. So it replaces itself in your hand. Yeah, you lose the action, but like it's really, really, it's an extremely good card for knowledge is power deck. Because the thing is, okay, at the end of my, let's say I have it on Emil, I attack with him, I do my thing, I get my agenda with knowledge is power. Then at the end of my turn, I ready him. So even if they fear Emil during the whole course of the next round, it's fine, unless they also exhaust him as well. Because they can put the fear token on him, but it'll come back around to my turn. He's already ready, and away we go. So yeah, it gets around that really nicely. It replaces a card in its hand, so which feeds into the knowledge's power is good. You're still keeping your hand size up, and it's just a really good card. So I started by trying to do that with Emil and Dragon Roost. I'm like, okay, I can do this thing with Cat's Grace where I put it on Emil. I use Emil during my turn, and then I can also Roost with him because he's ready. He readies at the end of my turn, and he's ready to use the Dragon's Roost. And that was a good deck. It was cool. I had a thing going with, what's the card's name? Bad Reflection. Yeah, Bad Reflection, where it's like, okay, they do like I don't know, they do one of these social or a physical attack. I Bad Reflection, I just smash them with mental damage. I had Spy Games going as well as one of my other parts of my Nosferatu package. So I could Dragon's Roost, hit them with a Bad Reflection maybe, and then Spy Games and kill them. And it was a sneaky deck, but it just wasn't as, again, as consistent, quite as consistent as I would like. So I came around to being, okay, well, this solves the knowledge's power issue of your leader getting feared. And yeah, granted, you're not going to draw this card every game. Well, then here's where we come to it. Actually, you will, almost certainly, because you're running University Library and you're drawing so many cards, you will see this card. You might not see it right away, but you will see it. And the thing is, Emil, you want to be killing something every turn. So I'm like, okay, to get full value out of him, you need to kill something each turn, or a big drain effect, like we talked about. So University Library, I'm like, okay, well, if I want to use that, let's say 3 or 4 times, it's a 4-player game. If I want to use it on everyone's turn, or maybe 3 of those people's turn, Emil's losing, let's say 3 blood. Well, then I can gain full value here because I can attack, get 2 gold from Knowledge's power, I can kill a mortal with Emil, get another agenda, and then I can do the burn effect and heal Emil back up to let me keep doing this University Library stuff and keep my hand full for the Knowledge's power, and also just keep my hand full of options, which that in itself is extremely powerful. So, and then you're mixing the event in when you kill the mortal. So they're getting so much out of this one action with Emil. You're getting full value here. So okay, how do we take this a step further? Well, we have Mei Yin Yang here. And Mei says, party, this attack deals +1 to the target if there are 3 or more mortals in the burn pile. She also has Dominate. So Mei is the perfect character here to pair with Emil because you're already wanting to burn the citizens, and now once you get 3 in there, other people might be burning them as well. That'll even help that fill up. And then that +1 damage turns on, and that's huge. Suddenly, you're killing mortals with Emil without having to drop a card. Your backhanded complement is swinging for 4 social instead of 3. Your Demand Obedience is swinging for 4 mental with a 2 prestige loss, and that is really amping up the potential of your effects. But the thing is, okay, this deck, it moves fast, and you get agenda fast because you're filling up your hand with the University Library, and you start collecting points quick here. So the thing is, you are certainly going to become a target playing this, which means we need guard because Emil, he's weak on physical, he's naturally weak to ranged attacks, and he can get hit pretty hard with them. So I wanted a lot to protect against that, and the nice thing is, the guards, a lot of the guards come with Dominate, the chain there, or the bricks. I like to call it the bricks, but I think it's chain. And So, which is great because you need that out for demand obedience. So I'm like, okay, Humberto, nice, cheap, three blood guard, because again, cheap characters with a mill, you don't want to get your prestige too low. So we got Humberto, Lolita. Susanna is the one I don't love here. You get absolutely zero utility out of the blood replacement thing. She's here for being a guard with dominate. And that's something that I would. This is the one character I'd maybe change. They just spoiled a 3 blood La Sombra vampire with dominate that you can spend an agenda to gain like 5 influence or something. I think he's going to fit real nicely here. Darius Wolf I like because he has dominate, guard, and the draw card when you block with him. I think he's a good vampire. Ratchany Sock, a guard with dominate with survivability if you're spending agenda, if you're trying to switch to that drain. And then we talked about May. So the thing I love about this deck as well is I think it really opens up a lot of room for skilled plays, which I just love, like the sneakiness, the trickiness, because you generally do jump to an agenda lead with this. And it's the meta now. People are running constant surveillance. I have 2 here. A lot of people are running 3 copies of it, and people are going to be throwing this down on your stuff. Sometimes university library, so they can't fill up your hand. Sometimes the knowledge is power to just block your agenda gain off that. So if people start targeting with this kind of stuff, making it harder and harder to get your points, well, if you're ahead enough on points, you could potentially get an off-rival KO through a prestige drain, depending on how many agenda that person's rival has. And another thing is you could always just target your own rival as well, depending on what their prestige situation is. And you have a lot of tools, a lot of drain tools here. You have 3 biting comments, which I don't love as a drain tool, but it's a very versatile card, and I like it. It's still stealing 1. Sometimes that's just what you need. The backhanded compliment, demand obedience, and I also have 2 balance of power, and then 3 last word to help try to push that through. So it's hard to get through, but you can get, if you drop a last word, they're gonna have a hard time blocking it, and they're gonna really, it depends on what they're playing. Obviously, if they're playing influence decks, maybe not, but last word is just a really good card to have. It gets you the prestige if your scheme goes through. I have 2 mercies here because, like I said, Emil becomes a huge target. People are going to try to kill him. If they do kill him, or if he gets really low, I like just having the idea of just having one of these in my back pocket to get me out of a real bind. Maybe even if he's in torpor, to get him back can be huge. But even just to keep him from dying. If, maybe you're using the library and suddenly the city runs dry, you don't get a mortal to kill on your turn. Well, you have options. Fame and Fortune is here because something I've noticed, and it happened to me one game, this deck you absolutely need Emil in play. You have to bid for him, and you have to bid what you have for like it's essential that you get him, so you will spend to get him at the beginning of the game. And it wasn't this deck exactly I was playing, but it was one of my Emil decks, and the other guy played Emil, and he spent 3 on the bid, and he bid first, and I spent 4 to keep my Emil, which Emil is, I think he is that good, but the thing is, if you're spending 4, you are in a really bad, like, you've just spent 11 prestige with 1 vampire. Like, you don't want to be doing that. But the thing is, this deck will completely crumble to pieces without him, and you need to do it. So I want ways out to not die on prestige loss myself. I have 2 Fame and Fortunes, so if I play a Fame and Fortune coupled with a last word, and I get it, that's 3 prestige back. So I can handle this kind of expensive, okay, I need a mill, I am paying for a mill. Because that's 3 prestige back in 1 action right there. I also have those 3 biting comments, whereas you're stealing from them, which is nice, but it's getting you 1. It's keeping you away. And if they're attacking my prestige with their attacks and their cards, I have 3 Fortify the Inner Facades. So I think it's quite hard to drain this deck because of that. And I also have these balances of power. I like to use it as an offensive tool to drain someone else, but if I'm risking dying, you can bet that the other players are wanting a balance of power to go through to get me a prestige back or something like that if necessary. So I have some tricks, some ways out of this. Ton of cards, agenda gain, quick, get up in points, open up doors to knock people out, maybe off rival KO, otherwise just drain your rival's prestige and let the Prince of Prague rise to the top. So there it is. There's my deck. I feel like I'm probably forgetting something to talk about. Oh, actually, yes, this is what it is. There's a couple more quick things. I'm going on. This video is getting a bit long, but you can tell I'm pretty fired up about this deck. I have a couple constant surveillance here because, yeah, there's some decks that move fast, raise the stakes, get a lot of points, change of scenery can be a problem, but you can attack. Well, no, that one attack and prestige is if they have Carmilla and things like that, that's just brutal. So yeah, constant surveillance can get you out of some binds. I like having 2 here. I don't necessarily want 3 because I generally want to try to be the person in the lead myself, but it's nice having 2 here. Smoke and Mirrors, in my opinion, best defense card in the game. Putting a fear token on a target character in the attacking party is huge, huge, huge. If they're playing aggro, this can hurt them so bad off an attack of then having their character feared and not able to attack you again with their best attacker next turn. This is an amazing, amazing defense card. It has physical and mental. It has a shield, and that fear token is the best part of it. Mesmerize is here because I do have every single character in my coterie has Dominate. So I have a couple Mesmerizes here, so it's a nice little 2 requirement BP requirement card. I can attack with any of these characters here. If there's a character who really needs to try to get feared and they don't have a blocker to defend them, this is a super nice little tool to have. And then this is just a nice little, I just love this, Fragmented Mind. I haven't actually this card is a new edition. Well, this is a new iteration of the deck. I haven't actually played this full iteration. I've been playing the Knowledge is Power version, but I made some adjustments to really try to improve it. I haven't played this version that I'm showing right now yet, but I've played a lot of Vampire with Emil, and the Knowledge is Power deck here with him is really good. These are just some improvements I've made. And yeah, the Fragmented Mind is a super cool card because the thing is, you want 3 vampires out. You want 3 in your coterie. You want a mill. You want a guard, and I love having Lolita because she's a nice 3 with a physical and social stat. She has, yeah, she's just and she has guard. So I really like having her. Ideally, I would have Emil, May, and Lolita out, but it's depending on what you draw, it can be other combinations. And Fragmented Mind, if I'm like, okay, I'm going to attack with May, so Emil does his thing, then I attack with May, let's say, and I play a Fragmented Mind, and I would attack with May first, because Emil needs to still be up, because I want all 3 in the party, and to attack someone and discard 3 cards from their hand is so disgustingly good. That's such a big FU to a player. So if someone's in the lead, someone's threatening to kill you, or that's such a bargaining chip. Oh man, I just love this. So I'm really excited to put this card to use. It's a card that I don't really see people play it a lot, but in this deck, every character having Dominate, the discard potential off this, if you discard 2 cards from that, this is good. If you discard 3, holy, you're laughing. I mean, maybe you try to keep it to yourself because you're gonna really piss some people off, but you're busting a gut inside as you just absolutely screw some player over with this. So, yeah, that's the deck. Feel free to ask any questions down below. I'll like to. I don't like really being like, oh, I'm gonna make this video and then feeling like I'm stuck to making it. But maybe I'll talk some more about it in the future. Maybe who knows? Who knows what the future may hold? But Vampire is an amazing game. If you haven't played before, I recommend checking it out. If you made it this far into the video, I imagine you probably have. Probably pretty interested in the game. But nonetheless, thank you so much for watching and supporting the channel. It's awesome. If you made it to the end of the video, huge thanks for sticking around and. Just let me wax poetic and chat about some Vampire and some Emil, some of my favorite things out there. So yeah, that's really everything. If you click like, click subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll catch you guys next time. Take care.